Let's do it.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. It's I guess week 2 of our Homes Tour extravaganza that began early this year as a new experiment in having these informational webinars leading up to the actual tour, which is October 22nd and 23rd. Today, Candace Wong, Architecture Plus Design, is going to lead off our 2 webinars about the Stenger No. 2 house. And Michael Bennett is your moderator today. I'm Ingrid Spencer. I'm the Executive Director for AIA Austin. And I'm absolutely thrilled to start us off. So first thing I want to do is give a shout out to our sponsors. You know, this tour is a huge underwriter. It is a huge underwriter. I'm reading. This tour is a huge fundraiser for AIA Austin. So we cannot say enough thanks and gratitude to the sponsors who support the tour. Our underwriter and golds are showcased here. So I'm going to turn things over to Michael and Candace and her friends who are sponsors and collaborators. Michael, it's all yours.
Hello, everybody. I am Michael Bennett. I am a senior associate at Chioco Design, and I'm also on the founding board of NOMO Central Texas, the current treasurer, and helped start the LGBTQIA+ Alliance within AIA Austin. So today I am here to introduce this class to you. So let me start with the bios. So let's see here. We've got Candace Wong. She is an Austin native and Texas A&M undergrad. Is the founding principal of CWA+D LLC. After a long stint of life, school, and jobs in Texas, Candace followed her heart and career to Los Angeles to earn a Master of Architecture at the University of Southern California. Found a home at the award-winning firm KAA Design and became a licensed architect in 2015. After 6 years of soaking up California sun and modern architecture influence, Candace returned to Texas to start up Candace Wong Architecture Plus Design, a custom residential design practice specializing in modern design for lifestyles and fun. Outside of her practice, Candace serves on the NCARB Forms Committee and the AIA Homes Tour Committee, is active in the Terry Scholar Alumni Association, and maintains licensure in California and Texas. We also have Drea Peters. Drea Peters Interiors designs for style-obsessed comfort worshipers. Our cornerstone values are simplicity, mindful investing, and home processes. Drea effortlessly marries her New York sensibility and that laid-back Austin vibe. The end results are refined, understated spaces with a bit of an edge. Incorporating the unexpected, they feel fresh and organically collected, just like their clients. And then finally, we've got Ronnie Jackson. He is the principal owner and chief executive officer of Austin Home Renovations Incorporated. He is a general contractor and a Texas real estate broker. Ronnie grew up in Houston, Texas, and moved to Austin in 1978, where he met and married his wife of 35 years, Patricia Ann Patty. They have 3 grown children and 7 grandchildren. During his time in Austin, Ronnie has helped hundreds of Central Texas families realize their dreams of home ownership while customizing their living spaces to fit their individual lifestyles and family needs. Ronnie and his team of 12 specialize in residential remodeling, maintenance, and repairs. The majority of their work is done in-house to maintain quality control, as each and every member of the team has a vested interest. Additionally, they have developed long-standing relationships with some of the best trades and craftsmen in the greater Austin area. Their success has been reflected by a degree of professionalism as well as their work ethic. Their philosophy is plain and simple: treat all parties honestly and fairly in each and every transaction. So there's a whole lot more here about his songwriting, and there is, so I feel like we should talk about more of that in the end, and if you have time, make him play a song. But okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Candace.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll jump right in. Okay, so thanks again for everybody tuning in. Being a part of the Homes Tour is a childhood dream of mine. And I'm just so thankful to be here, and it's such an honor. Thank you to the AIA Austin for creating such an excellent platform for all of us to show off our hard work. Thank you to our tour sponsors, our project sponsors. You guys make this tour happen, so thank you, thank you. Michael for volunteering her time to moderate this panel, and then just to everyone who was a part of this project. It was truly a team effort, and we wouldn't be here without your key partnerships. I also want to introduce a few sponsors that we have with us here. You've already heard their bios, but we have Drea Peters. She'll actually be presenting towards the end to give us a little bit of insight into the interiors world. So welcome, Drea. And we also have Ronnie Jackson. He'll be staying on this call to field any questions at the end during the Q&A session. So welcome to him as well. And let's just jump right in. So you guys are here for Stenger number 2. Thanks for joining. I'm Candace Wong of Candace Wong Architecture and Design. And I'm just really excited to share this project with you guys. Thanks to some really amazing clients thank you for letting us learn about your house, and thanks in advance for letting thousands of people come and tour it and on October 22nd. My small architecture practice works on a variety of different residential projects, sizes, types, and scopes. As you can see here from these 3 projects, they all may vary, look a little bit different, but the underlying theme and goal is to achieve an appropriate level of modern design through a highly collaborative process. I say appropriately modern because the level of modern depends on site, context, clients, and lifestyles. In this first project, our Serene Hills new construction in Lakeway, Texas, it's a 4,500 square foot home. And it was built in a primarily traditional hill country neighborhood. So we focused on pairing some warm textured materials with modern lines, volumes, to get that kind of balanced contemporary design for hill country living. I was actually brought in for vision and schematic design by the developer, and then hired again by the clients directly during construction when the clients weren't realizing their kind of initial design goals, which was fun for everyone, but we'll talk more about setting up projects for success later on. Of course, we have Stenger number 2. You guys know this remodel in addition because you came here for it. You'll notice, similar clean lines as the Serene Hills project before, but this rendition has more client-driven colors, pops of color, and also project-specific details that were based on the original Stenger home. And lastly, we have Huntington Beach, which was an addition remodel project done with Joseph Sandy. And it features similar design moves and aesthetic, but you can see that we did a kind of more minimal raw palette. And so in my practice, I love to get this kind of variety of projects because it's based off of the client's lifestyles and their sensibilities and them bringing their vision and my vision together. And we end up with this kind of fun variety. So speaking of clients, let's talk about my ideal client. As you guys know, I think it's one of those relationships that you'll have for a really long time. So it's one of the most important things and first steps is finding the right fit. In my practice, I look for, collaboration because it's that highly collaborative environment. We're looking to do something custom. We're looking for a client that values good design and good designed spaces. We want a feasible budget. I say feasible because, I don't shy away from a tight budget, but there's got to be some room for creativity. We also do everything site specific. We focus on sustainability because as architects, it's our job to, address the changing climate. I put in nerd because I like a good nerd energy. Appropriately modern, we talked about that already. Interesting, I want to work on really fun, interesting projects, and I put fun in here too because I want to have fun doing it. So speaking on how I met Holly, in true Austin form, I met Holly through a friend of a friend. I had just moved back to Austin from LA, and I started my own practice, which of course launched with doing my own remodel of my own home. I posted these not so great amateur photos of the project with a not so subtle plug to hire me for your project needs. And one of my friends made note of it. And whenever Holly reached out to her friend about architect's recommendation, she reached out to my friend, and my friend suggested me. So I guess that Facebook album, also titled Our Very Own Money Pit, as a joke, I guess it worked. So jumping into the project, Holly was looking for an architect to consult on a project. She had just purchased this 1951 Stenger home in Barton Hills. We eventually coined it Stenger No. 2 because it was the second residence of the Stenger Addition neighborhood. And Holly was looking for a consulting role to an already signed on design build team. I wasn't quite sure that I wanted to do a consulting role project, but I decided to meet with Holly and the design build team anyways. So I met with Holly. She was pregnant at the time with her daughter Sloan. And she just told me about the home. She told me about the goals that she had for the project and for the team. And she told me how she had fallen in love with Stenger, this neighborhood, and this house because of its bones. And you could tell in our first meeting that she was just really excited about the potential of the home. She was committed to the project and doing it right. And she was going to be patient enough to see it through. So, you know, I was on the fence at first, but after meeting Holly, I was completely sold. So before we talk about the project, let's talk a little bit about A.D. Stenger. A.D. Stenger is short for Arthur Dallas Stenger II. He was also a son of an architect. He was born in Dallas, Texas in 1920, and he later moved to Shreveport, Louisiana when he was about, I think 10, and then went on to serve in the Navy with the Seabees during World War II. AD eventually came to Austin to study at the University of Texas, and he used his GI Bill to attend the university. But he needed to supplement his income, so he did some gigs around Austin playing the accordion to help earn extra cash. In 1950, before graduation, Stenger passed his architecture licensing exam and dropped out, and just went into business developing, designing, and building the single-family homes and neighborhoods during that post-war housing boom. He died in 2002 at the age of 82. And in all stories and articles that you'll read about AD, you can gather that he was one of those big Texas personalities. He was passionate about the outdoors, as you can see in these photos. And he just loved being an architect, a builder, and a developer. AD, the architect, so he went on to build more than 100 homes around Austin, and he would become one of the most prolific residential modernist designers of Austin. People call him the Texas Eichler, but he was actually doing it before Eichler. Most homes feature an open living area, large windows, rock walls, hardscape made up of the stone quarried from the site, and low slung fireplaces and low pitched roofs. Most homes are modest in size at around 1,500 square feet or less. And at the time, they cost around $18,000 to $22,000. Stenger was a believer in sweat equity, which you can tell from this old advertisement here. It says, you too can build a home with a little down or a little work. So he would let his clients, you know, put money down or decide to like paint the house as part of their contribution. The images on their left are from Stenger No. 1, which is 1904 Arthur Lane, his personal residence. And you can see that this house had a lot of these like innovative, uncommon things for the time. He had a large glass folding wall door. He had this precast concrete panels. He did skylights, you know, and it's all these things that you find in modern homes today. He also made 3 houseboats, and this is the second one here, the Kashmir, which was based on, or it was, he went to India and when he came back, he designed the Kashmir. And then on the right, this was his last home built in Ridgewood neighborhood, the largest one that he did. And you can see how he dealt with the clay soil by spanning a grid of precast concrete beams to serve as the foundation that, of course, he cast himself. You can see the holes at the end where he used to hoist them into place with a crane. And then at the bottom right, you see this really cute detail where him and his late wife signed J and AD for 1797, which, make note, he was 77 at the time when he built this house. So like a typical architect, he didn't quit. One of, I think, the most important parts about AD is the developer. Not only did he do those 100 homes, but he created, some of the key neighborhoods in Austin's history. In his career, he developed the AD Stenger Addition, which is in Barton Hills, the South Lund, also in Barton Hills, and Ridgewood Village off of Bee Cave. The Stenger Addition, which our project is located in, is his first developed neighborhood. And he chose this location because it was just outside of the city jurisdiction. So he had a little bit more leeway to do something fun, which brought him more progressive clients. And then make note, so on the photo on the left, this is Rab Road back in 1949. So remember this when you guys are driving on Rab Road to come visit our project for the tour to see how different it's gotten. And then for these developments, he had to bring all the utilities to them, which was, no small project back then. On the photo on the right, you can see how he actually did the sewer connection across the river to get to Ridgewood Village. And so I was also part of doing all of this research. I was fortunate enough to meet with Marlene Ciccarelli, who's AD's daughter, and she provided me with all of these lovely photos and articles and just stories about her dad. I'll have more of the articles at the house during the weekend, so you guys can come by and kind of look through them. He's got such a big story to tell, so be sure to save some time for that. The cutest fact that she offered was how each of AD's 3 kids corresponded with his 3 developed neighborhoods. As shown in this old family photo, of course, he's in an AD Stenger home. You've got AD on the left, Ella Jean, his wife, on the right. And then you've got AD the third in orange, which corresponds with the AD Stenger Addition in Barton Hills. You've got James Lee in the green, which corresponds with the South Lund neighborhood. And then you've got Marlene in the blue, which she told me she was actually named after this Marlin, because he loved the outdoors so much. And she corresponds with Ridgewood Village over here in teal. So back to the Stenger Addition neighborhood, which is where our project is located. There's 25 Stenger homes. And I can remember the first time turning into this neighborhood. I'd never been in this neighborhood before. Barton Hills is already great, and it's one of those amazing Austin neighborhoods. But this one is just like a small little enclave where you turn into it, and it feels like you time warp back to the 50s, and you're driving around and surrounded by all of these Stenger homes. So our project, I put the old Zillow images on here so you can kind of see what we started with. You can tell that there was a lot of TLC needed, but what we were trying to do for a focus for our remodel was we wanted to preserve the majority of the existing structure. It was important to keep the Stenger intent, and it's also the more sustainable option. We wanted to remove excess buildup from the previous remodels. We wanted to simplify and modernize the material palette, because you can see there's just a lot going on, and connect the interior to the exterior. You can see some, in these images that it was already there. We just wanted to enhance it a little bit more. And we wanted to add on to the house in a way to allow for more modern sized spaces. But we wanted to maintain the overall intent of the original Stenger home and the original form and street scale. So here is the existing site plan. You can see in the existing residence, you enter from Arthur Lane. You had a modest size entry foyer, the bedroom wing to the right, the living room and dining room and primary suite wing on this kind of Y-shaped area, a small kitchen towards Arthur Lane. And then it used to have a garage apartment, but we're guessing that they made, there was a few different remodels, but we can't confirm what didn't happen, what did not happen, because the original drawings were accidentally thrown away. I guess apparently all of the Stenger Addition neighborhood, a lot of the drawings were thrown away because AD had them stored in a bin next to his desk that looked like a trash can, but wasn't a trash can. And so they were accidentally thrown away. But we're making these assumptions that because originally all the houses had carports, and they made this bathroom an ensuite bathroom to bedroom 3. And then that they also added in these hallway closets and mechanical closet because we originally had these clear story windows that got covered up. There's also this peculiar ceiling wing, but we'll tune into that later. And then you can see just the primary suite with this really quaint, cute bathroom. And of course, the laundry room. Everybody loves a good laundry room right in their primary suite. So for the proposed plan, it's essentially the same entrance. We still have the bedroom wing on the right. We've got still the living room and dining room in the central kind of Y area, and then the primary suite towards the end. The kitchen is still in the same spot facing towards Arthur Lane. But what we were able to do is by taking over that garage apartment, we went down to a single car garage. We used some of that space for a proper laundry room that's not in the primary suite. We used some of that space to give for a bar and a larger size kitchen. We added on this office / bedroom number 4 here. And then in the bedroom wing, we turned that bathroom back into a shared bathroom for these bedrooms. We removed those hallway closets so we can utilize the existing clear stories again. And what we did in this Y space, okay, so the primary suite, since we pushed it out towards the rear yard and back towards Rab Road, it gave us a larger primary suite with walk-in closet, larger sized shower. But one of the things we wanted to have a threshold-free shower, but because of that half critical root zone of our protected tree back here, it was going to the foundation was going to be too tricky for that. So we just went with the curved design. We ended up with about 2,195 square feet, which is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, which that means we did an addition of about 525 square feet. Oops. So just a quick diagram kind of showing you guys where we did the addition. So the 2 plans are kind of overlaid, and in this teal volume, you can see where we added on to that kind of Y-shaped volume. And then we added in a little bit of the square footage in this pink volume. And then in this diagram, you see that we've essentially kept the part that's facing Arthur Lane the same, but just snuck in a little bit of square footage back here. And then in that Y area, we added that square footage. We actually lifted the roof 5 feet. We kept it the same pitch, but that just gave us kind of like larger, more modern size spaces. And, just makes you feel a little bit better and grander in those spaces. So I'll have a few images we can quickly go through to make up some time. These are it'll show you the design process. We have the before, the design, the final, and then the progress in between, kind of demo, framing, and dried in. So this is the view from Arthur Lane. This is the view of the backyard. This is the view of the living room. And you can see how when we raised that roof the 5 feet here, we actually quarried the stone on the site just like AD did, so that you can get this kind of seamless transition for the new space. Here's the kitchen. You can see when we demoed it, we had to demo it all the way down to that existing stone wall because there was so much mold and rot back there. So we ended up having to just build it from the inside. Here's the hallway view. This was one of my favorite blow ups because it was all there before. We just removed the hallway closets. We captured the existing clear stories. And now you just have this like really fun, interesting hallway with the pop of color at the end. And so back to the HVAC, in order to reclaim those clear story windows, we needed to find a way to heat and cool the house without that HVAC closet right here in that hallway. So the design build team came up with the mini split system shown in the orange area, transfer grills in the purple, and then the traditional kind of ducted HVAC in that Y area. Because we raised that roof 5 feet, we were able to do the mechanical mezzanine above the closet. So a funny story about Marlene, I asked her if she had any advice or what she would tell people for that owned a Stanger home and either wanted to remodel it or add on to it, like what advice she had for them. And she told me that she would tell people to change nothing, keep everything exactly the same. So Marlene, if you're watching, please look away. These are some details that didn't quite make it into the final version. We've got the entry skylight here, which we got rid of because it was the source for all of that water intrusion that I talked about earlier. And Holly just didn't want to chance it. So we unfortunately got rid of it. We also had this really cool indoor cactus garden, which is really cool and great, but not great for a toddler. Also that ceiling wing I talked about, but it wasn't an original Stanger detail, so good riddance. And the open rafter ceiling, which I loved, but we needed the room for insulation. So that got filled in with insulation and a new gyp ceiling added in. And then we have some fun detail, or the details that we did keep. We kept that angled eave. We did close it in because to keep away from the cobwebs. We kept, of course, the rock walls, no pun intended, with these cuties here. This is the area where the cactus garden was, and we turned it into the area we called the jam zone. And you can see Sloan and Trey jamming out. And then, of course, the original size windows in the kitchen. And then this kind of peculiar protruding rock ledge from at the fireplace, which when you guys are visiting the house, maybe you guys can help us figure out what it's for. And then we were also able to infuse some really fun modern details. So in the primary shower, or primary bathroom, we added in this glass ceiling shower, which originally it was a traditional kind of open top type, but Trey wanted to have a steam function. And so we had gone through all of that work to raise that roof 5 feet, add in that beautiful Western red cedar ceiling. And we didn't want to kind of enclose it or fur down any kind of ceiling for it. So we came up with the glass top ceiling, which would still allow all that natural light to come in. You'd still get the great view from it. And it would be really cool once it's closed off and it looks like a cool steam cube. This was 2019 in the middle of the 2020 elections. And Holly and I had a good laugh about 2 women designing their own glass ceilings. And then of course the custom millwork in the hallway, and then and the entry door. This thing is kind of the prize feature of the house. And it's a testament to Holly because it was very difficult to make it happen. And at some point a sub suggested that we, kind of VE it because it was also going to be pretty expensive. But Holly she knew it was going to be one of those killer pieces that defines that project. And she was committed and persistent in having it. And thank goodness she did. So back to, our clients, Holly and Trey ended up being those unicorn clients that you hear about. And it was just the most amazing process. And I'll touch on a little bit on on our team setup because it was kind of an atypical thing. I was a consultant. Typically I would have done from vision to move in, but as you can kind of see in this ghosted area. But I ended up being a consultant, which meant a lot of kind of initial discussion about how the design build team and I were going to coordinate our drawings. As you can see here, the design build team, permit drawings on the left, my drawings on the right. And just figuring out how we were going to divide up scope and coordinate our drawings. But over the process, as the project moved forward, I kind of took on more of a heavier role. After the permit drawings were done, I kind of finished up the construction drawings and transitioned into different roles. And also midway through construction, we transitioned to Austin Home Renovations as the GC. This project went through quite a bit of transition and changing roles. And I think the only reason it worked out was everyone's flexibility, the constant communication, also trying to clearly define those roles when they changed. And and mostly because of unicorn clients. Not all teams or clients would have fared as well during this process. And it's a testament to kind of how strong our team was. Lessons learned is that, transitioning teams can create redundant work. It does produce longer timelines. And another lessons learned is that you should involve the interior designer as soon as possible. For this project, we did have an interior designer to do some vision at the very beginning, but then Holly and I took on the interior design for the rest of the house. I always tell clients, just hire an interior designer. They're going to be way better at it than me. But sometimes I can pitch hit if, we have the same sensibilities and we also work really well together. But so we did that. And then for FF&E, Drea came on after construction. And it's only because of Drea's kind of flexibility and design strengths that these images are made possible. So thank you to her, and I'll let her take it from here.
Okay, is everything coming in clear?
It is, looks good.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Candace, for that wonderful intro and everyone making this possible. As Candace stated, I'm also very excited to be part of the AIA Austin Homes Tour and to be part of this incredible opportunity. So as you know, I'm Drea Peters. I'm the owner and creative director of Drea Peters Interiors. And one of our main focal points when working with clients and projects is we truly live by the tagline, we're for the style obsessed and comfort worshipers. I say that because as a native New Yorker, carving out a space that can truly feel like your own and a refuge from the city is no small feat. So we've been using the concept of creating personal sanctuaries from the outside world long before we were hit with pandemic. So this is a concept that's truly personal, near and dear to my heart. And so very often while we have iconic elements, we will have very clean lines and light and airy feels to our spaces because we want our clients to feel comfortable and that they do have a place to relax, replenish, and enjoy their home life. The other elements that we bring in, our projects tend to be modern, textural, and organic. One of our goals is to have this understated elegance. So projects are always individual to our clients. However, I'm always pulling it through that filter of understated elegance. The reason for that is that while everything will be modern and textural, I also want my projects and my clients to feel like their homes are warm and inviting. So they're livable works of art. So we will have really cool and distinctual elements, but our clients get to live inside of them. And that goes along also with the team that we've developed. The team I've assembled is carefully been curated. Each of our members they're kind, they're compassionate, they're approachable. And one of the most important aspects for us is that our clients feel comfortable and they're part of our team and that we're all really working together to give them the best end results. So one of the things I want to switch gears on now is to talk about how architects and designers work together. Very early on in a project, a homeowner typically asks the question, do I need an interior designer or do I need an architect? The short answer is that if you're doing a new build or if you're working on an expensive remodel, you're likely going to need both. And we'll explain why in a little bit. But hiring both from the start definitely is critical for the most efficient use of your time and the financial investment. The most successful projects that we have had, we have a symbiotic relationship with the architects, with our GCs. We essentially are all professionals. We get to complement each other's expertise. I don't know if you hear any background noise. I have a little pug sitting behind me. So I'm not allowed to do booty calls without. So sorry about that. So again, as I was saying, architects and designers complement each other's expertise. We end up exchanging ideas, but most importantly, it really ensures the cohesiveness of your project. So We add GCs as early on as possible. Really, the ultimate goal is we want to set up your project for maximum success. So talking a little bit more about what each of us can do, and this is in a general way, architects typically handle everything involved in the structure or the shell of the building. So they're going to be responsible for making sure maintaining the structural integrity, electrical, plumbing, things like that all meet building codes. They focus on designing how the spatial relationships work within the building and things like that are laid out. This can include the home's exterior and design elements as well. Where we start to see the overlap between architects and designers, as Candace mentioned earlier, they can also select elements like tile, flooring, lighting. And so when we start to see this overlap, it's where we really see the need for collaboration come to light. Interior designers, we are always handling the overall look and feel of the home. We want to create spaces that are functional and beautiful. We are always incorporating the nuanced details of how a homeowner lives. So like architects, we can be involved in choosing design elements like flooring, tile, cabinet design, countertops, lighting, all of that. What we do distinctly is oversee all FF&E. And FF&E is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So this is something that architects typically don't do, and they like to give to us. So the sooner we're brought in on a project, all of these things work in tandem, and the clients really, and the details, all these details really need to coordinate with the architect's plan. So we are ultimately weaving both sides together. And as stated earlier, we're tag teaming back and forth if we have a good team assembled. So all of these elements will impact the layout of your internal interior materials. So your furniture, your finishes, your textiles, your window treatments, paint color, wallpaper, accents, everything is going to be impacted by the architectural plans and designs from early on. So getting into a bit more of those roles and why it's important and what the real client benefits are, I think is an important part of the presentation. When we're brought on to assembling a team from the early stages, we get to streamline all of these processes and create efficiencies. And that's one of the things that are really important to me, because these are timely and costly endeavors, no matter how you slice it. So wherever we can create efficiencies, we all end up feeling a lot better about our process, especially our clients. So early on, we identify our roles. We want to prevent overlap and the redundancies. For example, if we're picking out tile materials, we want to make sure that whatever the material selected, we want to make sure that the layouts actually work within the space we're working with them. A lot of times you'll have the misconception that architects and GCs and designers have potentially combative, like it's more of a verse rather than a then. And really, ultimately, if you have a good team and the right people with the right skill sets and the right chemistry, we're really creating alchemy instead of conflict. And that's always going to create the best possible project. So the other aspect of this that was really important is the project timeline and investment planning. So clients don't know what they don't know with regards to remodeling and construction, and that's okay. I mean, this is what we do all day, every day. We were just joking before the presentation started. We all have notebooks next to our beds and, designing in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. So ultimately, you want this level of expertise coming at your project from all angles. The purpose of this is really, from the financial perspective, we're going to avoid financial snags, such as delays, rush fees. There are additions and corrections that will end up happening later on as a project is further developed, because there may not have been a full team or appropriate planning much earlier on. So another thing we were talking about, Candace and I, like when we were planning a project, we'll tag team. So she'll come in and she'll encourage the client to think about what they want to store. As a designer, we'll talk about more how and where from that functional standpoint, and we'll kick it back to the architect to make sure, like, let's say something like our electrical is all in place. So these types of things are all really important, and they're the layered aspects of the time and the planning. Other benefits for our clients is we get to pull resources and advisement. So we advise prospective clients the types of experts they need. Not only, may it be architects, designers, and GCs. We have a whole bunch of smart partnerships, we call them. So everything from organizational, of feng shui, to different types of experts, art consultants. We get to tell everyone what would be best served for the details of their project and scope of work. Another thing is one of our policies is measure twice and order once. So in this case, if you have a team assembled early on, you have multiple sets of expert eyes working together. So while someone like Candace and I can be designing away and making all these great ideas come to light, you know, the GC, like a Ronnie, has to come in and tell us we can actually do what we were planning on doing. So this is one small example of how we all sort of give a 360 perspective about your design and plan. So ultimately, compiling the team from the onset will give your best possible result for financial planning, your timeline needs, because timelines are really important in terms of ordering and developing your material selection, things like that. We want to set clear project expectations early as well. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Drawings and elevations, we can all do them. So we want to make sure that we're each doing the drawings and elevations that best serve your project. The smallest decisions need to be coordinated and vetted with your entire team. So early on, we define who's doing what types of drawings, with the ultimate goal is that we hand over a final set of drawings and client binder to the builder. And this helps the builder align the design, dimensions, and all those things to avoid costly errors later on when the actual construction begins. Once things kick off, you don't want to be correcting and changing, drawing and designing. You ultimately want to roll with a finite plan that's been measured twice with an ordered one. So as far as we go, we normally at AIA Peters Interiors, we spend a lot of time early on in the process in the programming phase. So we've developed very clear and strict processes that we adhere to, because this gives our clients ultimately the best clarity, the most efficiency, the highest level of preparedness. And I also like to bring in mindfulness. I don't like to be cleaning up a mess, you know, rushing and kind of haggard. That's where mistakes get made. Money goes flying out the window. Mindfulness is the backbone of our entire process. So everything that we do incorporates those elements. Our ideal clients are also realistic. We keep talking about Holly and Trey being unicorn clients. They've been incredible, especially with me coming in at a later stage. They're realistic about process and expectations and what goes on. Our ideal clients, as well as Holly and Trey, are trusting. They value our expertise and what we bring to the table. They're also artful and creative people who respect and really want creative high-level design, as well as a high level of function. I spoke earlier about all of those smart partnerships and the various experts that we bring in. This adds another layer of innovation, expertise, and it elevates the design overall. And ultimately, our client feels truly supported. We have the ability, if we don't have the expertise, we have the ability to essentially meet every one of our clients' needs. So our ideal clients are busy people who appreciate great style and that serious comfort I was talking about earlier. You know, they want these tailored solutions, but ultimately they want them to look, you know, cool designs, and my clients like a laid back vibe. So I ultimately think I just described Holly and Trey again. But speaking about that ideal client, so some of the tools that we used from the very beginning, we use this first infographic quite seriously. So some of the language I don't care for, but the concepts remain the same. When you're starting a project, we always tell our clients, you have to pick 2 out of the 3 in this infographic. If you want high quality design and you want it to be on a quick timeline, it's not going to be inexpensive. If you want an inexpensive project and you want it to be done quickly, you're going to be compromising on quality. And if you want to save money, but you also want high quality design, it's not going to be fast. Ultimately, good design takes time no matter what, but the rule of thumb is pick any 2 of these. And this is a simplified version, but we give clients early on a lot of budgeting tools. We work with them extensively to develop a budget because we want to have them prepared and readily aware of what's coming down the pipeline. So doing that budget development super early in the project is imperative to success at the end part of the project. You don't want to be rushing and pushing through the FF&E stage because again, that's when we start racking up extra bills that could easily have been avoided. We have an extensive style assessment process. These are just a couple of inspiration pictures, but we spend a lot of time with the clients in the creative side initially, because even if we're not fully launching the design yet and they're still in the architectural phase, our style assessment enables us to really hone in on different elements. Like, let's say they want modern and classic, as their ultimate design. While we're not picking and selecting everything, we're really narrowing down what is to come and the directions. We create these concepts and mood boards, even if it's not the fleshed out design, because these act as our North Star from very early on in the project. And this goes back to creating cohesion. As I said, we have extensive budget breakdowns. We give highlights early on so people are prepared, and then we work in more detail as the project and we take over with our FF&E. When we present to a client, we start with their overall project presentation. I'm going to fly through these pretty quickly, but ultimately we give floor plans, elevations, details. This is all part of that client binder that the contractors and GCs, builders can just run with. We're there for support, but this just gets to be fully executed. We work through with clients the vibe and tone that we're setting, what types of textures and why we're using. The ultimate goals for our designs are usually refined and striking. There may be some different options that we give clients. For example, these are two different mood boards or concepts where ultimately everything's the same, but we've given them a couple of different lighting options. Another reason why we want the proper planning early on with the architect. We can get really detailed with a lot of our drawings. I mean, we get right up in like a kitchen island like this. Where are you putting your recycling bags? We don't miss a beat. Not a single detail is overlooked with things like kitchen islands, bathroom designs, laundry and living areas. By the time we switch out a few options at the end of a presentation, for example, something like this, it's the same exact concept of design, but this, we're saying to a client in this example, do you want refined movement? Or would you prefer organic structure? So when we're getting our final design, there's not a ton of details flying around. We might be just switching out a couple of elements. And this is a good example when working with kitchens and baths. We've worked with architects and contractors, and while we were selecting all of these FF&E, we're aware that the lead times are appropriate, works within their budget. We can actually use all of these materials. When Candace and I are joking around about tile and layout, we want to make sure that the tile actually works with the structure that she's built, and in most cases, that is how it works when we're all pulled together early. So providing, elevations, we talk about the, juxtaposition of different types of elements. My projects tend to have some really clean and minimal modern looks, with also balanced out by some playful and unexpected elements. We'll run through this end part pretty quickly, but the execution, we give everyone the design services, projected labor, FF&E. We walk through whatever those next steps are. We launch our timelines and try to set those expectations. And then this is one quick before and after with Holly and Trey's project, their primary bedroom. You get to see all of the magic that Candace worked as the architect, and then we come in and layer to give some really cool, interesting spaces. So we can wrap up there, but that's the general idea. And I think that this worked with me coming later on because Candace and I have a really great exchange and have a good time working together. And then Holly and Trey have just simply made it magical. So again, thanks for having us. I'm really glad to be a part of this group.
Thank you guys, both of you. Yeah, Drea, I think maybe I need some of that presentation from my new clients. Here you go. This is why you need all these people. So yeah, there's a couple of questions. And I felt like that first one about the quarrying the stones could be good for both Candace and Ronnie to kind of talk through that. So the question is, what was the process like of quarrying stones on the site to build in the fireplace?
Yeah, and I think Ronnie would do a great job talking about kind of the process of how the sub quarried it and how they went about kind of matching it and seamlessly integrating it into that additional space.
And we've got just a few more minutes here, so go ahead.
So we can you hear me okay, everybody? So we can pretty much match any kind of stone, brick, so forth. We have a vendor that saves brick in particular when he tears and demos things down. So he's got a whole yard out there of different brick from all over Central Texas and so forth. Same way with stone. He very rarely ever throws things away. They'll clean it up, they'll demo it, they'll clean it up, they'll bring it back, and there's always going to be somewhere to match it. Now, in this particular property, there was a lot of field stone. There was a lot of things that were there that can, as you clean the landscaping up, you find those rocks that were, indicative to that period in time when it was built. And every case is individual, but we can usually match pretty much any kind of masonry, whether it be brick or stone. I've got an excellent mason who works all over Central Texas. He's got about 50 guys that work from San Antonio to Dallas, and they can usually match any kind of masonry that we want.
All right. That's amazing. I love that you got that off the site. I like that you were able to expand that. The other question that's on here says, oh, there's a couple more. What was the interaction like with the Historic Landmark Commission? Was there pushback from the city on raising the roof 5 foot, or restrictions that you had to overcome?
Those are great questions. And in full disclosure, the design build team and Holly worked directly with the city kind of early on about all of these moves. I know originally that they did a lot of like pre-construction meetings just to get everybody on board with what they wanted to do. And so that's the reason why we kept all of the front facing Arthur Lane portion of the building kind of the same. All of the windows are the same sizes. And then the only things that we changed were kind of in the 2 garage door areas, which I think the discussion was that, well, it wasn't a garage before, it was a carport. So it was already this way. So I think there was a little bit of leeway in allowing us to add in that 1 window for the laundry room. But for that back portion of like with the raise of the 5 foot, I think it was because it was in the back portion. It wasn't that main front face that there was a little bit of leeway. And because the volume essentially was the same, we kept the roof pitch the same, and all we did was kind of hike it up a little bit more. But that's only just kind of from what I've heard and what I understand. And, maybe we can further answer that. I'll get the lowdown from Holly, and I can fill you guys in on maybe a probably more dramatic story during the homes tour weekend.
So those are all the questions that are on the chat. But and I feel like all the stuff that we had previously talked about, you guys really covered. You were talking about your like ideal client, and I really think you hit on a lot of that. But I like to ask something to everybody. What's your favorite part of the house? And I feel like that's for all 3 of you. Do you have a favorite part? Maybe you don't, but maybe there's just this one spot that you're just like, I'm so happy this happened, or
Can I go first?
Yes.
Okay, so I meant to mention it on the proposed plan, but that's when things dropped and I just lost my state of mind. But it's one of those nerd details that not everybody will see right at first, but when you see it, you're like, oh, that's so cool. My favorite part is the finished floor layout in the whole house. So we use those large format terrazzo tiles. And when we were looking at different studies for kind of how the alignment should work out, because most of the house is orthographic, but then we've got that one volume that's slightly at an angle and the Y shape. So kind of how do you address that, and do we want the tile to align with the orthographic version or the Y? And I thought, it's such a peculiar angle that we ended up going and aligning all of the tile with the Y, and then it kind of floods throughout the part of the building that faces Arthur Lane. So it's one of those things when you walk in, you see the tile at a slight angle, and I think most nerds are like, that's a little peculiar, and then you see why it was done that way, and it's one of those things that just give you the warm and fuzzies.
So one of my favorite aspects of this project is obviously everything Candace has done is beautiful, clean, streamlined, and Holly and Trey, aside from being just the unicorn client, they actually really like a bit of the psychedelic, funky color and pattern. And so coming in, doing the FF&E, later on, we were able to design a lot of custom pieces and furniture, incorporating a ton of layered textures and patterns, which hopefully you'll get to come see, touch and feel on the tour. We have a wall mural going into the living room that complements these different elements. We have most of the custom design that we're doing are very individual to Holly and Trey, but they're pulled through that filter to then married with the sensibility of the space that Candace has created with the structure of the building. So seeing again that alchemy has been one of the most exciting parts of this come together.
Ronnie?
I particularly like the front door. I think the front door turned out awesome. That was a collaboration between a whole lot of us. Candace designed it. It took a steel guy that really knew how to build it. It took a carpenter that knew how to place it in there. And somewhere I've got a video of us putting it in, and it took about 8 guys to pick that door up and put it in. And when it went in there, we just kind of looked at it and everybody's jaw dropped. And we just said, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, worth it. Worth all the work. That feels
So true.
good. Okay, well, I mean, I think that's about it. We're about out of time, unless there's any sort of last quick comments that anybody wants to say.
There was a quick question from Lisa Copeland. So she's a
Oh,
shout
yeah.
out to KAA Design. She's the CFO for KAA Design, tuning in from LA. So I'd like to quickly answer that because I think it's fun. She asked about what each of us would want to, like what kind of fun design challenge we're looking forward to in the future. And I think that's such a fun question because, you know, I did a barn edition, which was crazy cool. So I think like any kind of adaptive reuse, I would be so excited to do because it's, you know, something that it's got a lot of history and character, and then, you know, how you bring it up to your client's needs is I think something that could be really fun.
All
Oh,
right.
do we have enough time? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought we were out of time.
Yeah, we're out of time, but thanks so much, everyone. And thanks for coming, everyone. This was so great. And I can't wait to see the house in person on the tour.
Me too.
Yeah, we
Yeah, I
look forward
really
to
hope
seeing everyone.
to see all of you guys there.
Yep.
Mhm.
It was a fun project.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you guys.